Orchard here, bringing you a 2,500 point battle report. My very first ever. Before I get started, I just want to give a quick shout out to some of the people whose battle reports I've been watching for the last 4 months or so since I started playing in February. To Long Island Gaming, Once Bitten, Lord Tremendous, and there's some others that I kind of subscribe to. Skaven and AZ kind of motivated me to kind of do my own thing. So here is my battle report. I'm running Daemons, the demonic orchard, and in that list I'm running the Keeper of Secrets. I run it with an exalted gift and a lesser gift. I run a Herald of Slaanesh with a greater gift with the lore of Slaanesh. Another Herald of Slaanesh is my BSB with a greater gift, also rocking a level 1 with the greater gift and lore of Slaanesh. I run in this 54 Demonettes of Slaanesh with a full command and a banner of swiftness. The Blood Crushers of Khorne, they're my Pleasure Crushers. They just run 3 of them, and I run them with the full command. 5 Chaos Furies with no mark. I run 3 Nurglings for fun, and then I run 2 Pleasure Cannons of Slaanesh. I know they're skull cannons, but when you have a Slaaneshi-themed army, you got to kind of roll with the punches. And, of course, my Plague Drones of Nurgle. I'm running 3 of them, and they also have full command. And that's what I will be running for probably my next 3 or 4 battle reports, and then on to the report itself. So here are my magic spells, all from the lore of Slaanesh. I would show you my opponent's magic spells, but since he's rocking the little stunties, he had absolutely positively nothing to photograph here, which will then take us to deployment. So I am a complete goob and completely forgot to take a picture of the battlefield before or after deployments, before movings, but we ended up doing a meeting engagement. This is a campaign game for our local club, and what we got to do was we were supposed to do Blood and Glory for this scenario, but at the start you get to roll a special rule for each army. I got to make him roll to hold things in reserve, which I completely forgot about until I was in my car driving home that night. And his was he got to pick any scenario he wanted. He picked meeting engagement, and I was completely okay with it. Before the game, I was like, I moved really fast, and he was like, yeah, but no matter what I do, you're going to be on me, and I'm just going to sit in a corner and shoot you with the dwarves, and that should be fine. And I'm like, okay. And so after the first turn, which is what you're looking at right now, this is after the first turn after movement. My Demonettes were sitting over there, and I have both my Heralds, both my level 1s, my BSB in there. They're always striking first because of my loci for my Demonettes. I had my Nurglings run up as fast as they could towards that organ gun, and I was hoping that I could take it out. Of course, I glossed rules and not read them. I didn't know if scouting units could charge first turn, so I said something about it. I was like, I wonder if scouts can do it, and somebody at another table was like, yeah, the scouts can charge, and they don't vanguard. And so I rolled it, and I should have known this how the game was going to go because I instantly made the charge. I rolled like a 12, and then somebody turned around and was like, hey man, no, they actually don't. It's right here, read. And I'm like, yes, reading is good. Reading would be much better. So I ran them up the 8 inches, and that's where they sit. My plague drones, plague flies, my juggernauts, my cannons all move forward. My harpies or furies at the end went forward, and I moved my keeper. I started the game with my keeper by my plague drones, and I ran it behind the juggernauts, just kind of trying to stay away from cannon fire. And you'll see the way he deployed in a second, because I, of course, didn't do any of that. So you're going to have to kind of imagine with me. Just close your eyes and imagine the greatness of what a picture of deployment would have looked like. And I fired both of my cannons at his cannon. And my first cannon I picked the distance, I hit, I rolled a wound, and I rolled like a 2. And I was like, ah, I gotta waste the other cannon shooting at it instead of shooting at one of the other war machines. And of course I misfired. And I've had these for 2 games, and I see everybody say how good they are. I promise you that if you need somebody to roll for your opponent, because you don't want me to do it for you, but if you need your opponent to roll cannons, just call me. I got your back. I'll roll. I'll misfire. Something bad will happen. But I did misfire, but I rolled a 6, so I couldn't shoot that turn, which was absolutely, positively epic. So, like I said, I didn't take the picture for the deployment, so this is kind of what it looked like for him before the start. Just ignore the gyrocopters. So what you saw was my first turn, and this is his first turn after movement and vanguards. He moved his gyrocopters around to, I guess, kind of block for the Daemonettes, the horde I had running, and he moved the first one around, and I'm very new to Warhammer. I've been playing for a couple of months now, 3 months in 8th edition. I think I tried it 8 or 9 years ago. It didn't really take, and I played Warhammer when I was a kid. So we were kind of talking about it in the game as it went on, and the way he initially had that gyrocopter in front of me, he had it so that he had his flank for his gyrocopter facing the majority of my units. So that gyrocopter basically was turned 45 degrees, the front one to the north, and he was facing my herald, the one with the blue hair, right there. And I was like, man, what are you trying to do? And he was like, I just want them to charge the front of them and go towards the Thunderers so that I get a flank. And I'm like, man, I go, you have them. I'm actually getting your flank here because the majority. And he was like, oh, I didn't even think about it. And we kind of looked at it, and he was like, you're right. I'm going to change that. Do you mind? So I was like, man, not at all. Again, these are fun games. There's no reason for people to get all twisted. So he was like, yeah, so we changed it. And no matter where he put it, I was fine with it. I knew my Daemonettes would eat a gyrocopter. To the left, his right flank is a unit of, I think it's 20 Thunderers. Yes, it is 20 Thunderers because I remember getting shot a lot. Then he has an organ gun. I'm not sure the ruins he had on it. I think they had the reroll misfire one or something. I think they each had kind of a combination of that. But in front of it, he has got a brick of 20 hammers. And in there, he had, I think, a Thane. I don't know. He did have a character in there. And behind that is 30 crossbowmen. And behind that, a cannon. Now, the crossbowmen have great weapons. And if you're looking closely, you're probably like, well, they don't have crossbows in their hands. He had great weapons. Those are the models he wanted to use. And he was like, they have crossbows too. And I'm like, man, whatever. It's cool. And then he had 20 more Thunderers and another organ gun right there. And that is where my Nurglings are running up to at this moment. So this picture right here is of the 6 Daemonettes he killed by organ gun and his gyrocopter shooting in. I couldn't fail a save to save my life, and he couldn't hit or wound me to save his. So it ended up kind of being that type of game where I could do nothing wrong, and his shooting just wasn't there, so it was pretty bad for him. So Tapa 2, this is kind of what the board looks like as I'm getting ready to charge in at him. My Daemonettes are going to charge into his gyrocopter for sure, and I was like, I knew they were going to make it. Then I went for overkill. Absolute and utter overkill because, again, I'm a noob. So this is what it looks like after I make it all in and I move. I ended up moving the cannons forward. and I flew my Furies over top of the Oregon gun. I was just looking for something. I really don't know how to use Furies yet. I'm still trying to figure it out. You think I'm a relatively smart guy, at least I like to think so, and I'm no clue. So yeah, it looks pretty good for me. At this point, I'm thinking that there's no way the Demonettes don't absolutely murder that gyrocopter. I'm thinking that my Plague Drone should do well against the Thunderers because they're just hand weapon. I don't know if they can even take shields if he had them, but I'm thinking he's not going to hit me. I should just wound him, and I should at least bare minimum combat res him out. And I'm thinking that the Nurglings should take care of the Oregon gun, right? I mean, 9 attacks. I charged. I got this. I got this, right? So after the charges, that takes us to the magic phase, and I had moved my Greater Demon behind my unit of Demonettes, thinking, well, I should definitely be able to do some damage here. So it was a very, very eventful magic phase for me. I ended up running out, and I think I rolled something like 9 or 10 dice for my magic phase, but I rolled might have been an 8, because I think I rolled a 4 and a 4, and he got 4 dice, and I got 8, and I immediately was like, well, whatever, I'm going to throw 6 dice at CAC. He had everything in range of the choir, and I rolled, and I rolled like a 6, 5, 5, 4, 3, and a 2, I think. I didn't miscast, and I was waiting for him to say the magic words that I would figure, listening to so many podcasts and seeing so many battle reports of Dwarves. I was waiting to hear, I'll scroll that. And he just looked at me and he said, well, I'm going to try to dispel it. And I said, man, are you sure you want to dispel it? You can just, if you want, just throw your scroll at this, man. This is bad. He's like, well, what does it do? I told him, and he goes, yeah, this is pretty bad, but I don't have any scrolls. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. And so it went through. He threw his 4 dice. He's like, I'm going for double 6s, and he rolled like a 1, 2, 2, 3, I think. And I was like, oh man. So I ended up putting 2 wounds. This is when I finally started. I rolled a little bit bad. I rolled 3 hits for the gyrocopter, but I wounded it twice. I took off 3 hammers. I did. You ever notice for those of you that play with Slaanesh Magic, when you get choir, and you're like, yes, it goes off, and you see a big unit, and you're like, come on, give me like a 10 or an 11, and you roll like Snake Eyes or a 3. It never ceases to fail. So I got like 4 hits on the hammers. I killed 3 of them, though, so it was good. I completely nuked the gyrocopter in front of me. I ended up doing 11 hits to that, of course. And then I hit the Thunderers over there by the Plague Drones, and I took out something like 6. And you'll see here, I started, this is the picture I took before I finished adding all of my Demonettes back, and I got just a ton back. By the time this is over, I was back to 5 ranks, I think, of Demonettes, so the Horde was looking great. And I had 2 dice left, and I don't know why. I mean, I know why I did it. I knew that now he was a random movement. He was coming into me, and I chucked dice at Historical Frenzy, the last I had, and he had nothing to stop it. So I hit my guys with Historical Frenzy, and so now they're frenzied. So my Demonettes have, I mean, it's a ton of attacks. I mean, it's just a lot of attacks coming his way now. And then so then we're going to move over to the Plague Drone. So after I nuked everything with magic, we go to combat with my Nurglings, and there they are, and I charged. So, yeah. For my troubles of charging, they get backhanded pimp slapped by the dwarf crew. I take a wound, and we sit there staring it deeply into each other's eyes. My Nurglings are super ecstatic to get hit like that. So after watching my Nurglings fail, I looked at my plague flies, and I was like, oh man, they gotta do something. There's a lot of them. I thought, maybe I'll do something. I didn't think he'd be able to wound me. So I swing into him, and I do just a ton of wounds, and he can do absolutely nothing back to me. And he rolls his break check, fails it. I pursue, catch him, murder me some dwarves, and I kind of sit there. I pursued because I wasn't afraid of those great weapon-wielding crossbowmen. I don't know why. Call it inexperience, call it stupidity. I just wasn't afraid of them. I learned, however, that I need to be afraid of them. So I'm sitting in front of them, and it's his turn to go, and I know it's coming. His thunders on the left do nothing. His organ gun looks at my greater demon. The gyrocopter and hammers crash into are going to be crashing into, because they have no other choice but to randomly roll. I think his hammers are like 3 inches or 2 inches away from my demonettes, and as you can see in the picture, I think the gyrocopter is all of a half an inch. I'm looking at my plague drones, I'm looking at his guys, and I keep saying it over and over again. I'm really, really, really not afraid of his great weapon wielding crossbowmen. Jeez, oh Pete, I just stuttered like oh my god. And I don't know why I'm not afraid of him. I mean, I'm only initiative 2, he's initiative dwarf. I think we struck at the same time, and it's just so bad. I'm just so bad. He has really nothing else to do for this phase. I still just cannot believe that I thought that a good idea would be to overrun that unit, and with overrunning, getting closer to great weapon-wielding dwarves who are going to murder my face. I honestly think he was like 5 or 6 inches away here. He needed a 3. He rolled like a 10. I mean, they were fast. They were dwarfs on a purpose. We then go to magic, which is none, because he's a dwarf, and he goes to shooting. He shoots at my Furies with 20 Thunders. The 20 Thunders, he hit a bunch, only wounded 3, and I'm telling you, I was on fire. The 3 rolls, I roll 2 saves, I ward off 2 of them, and I lose 1 Fury. He then takes the organ gun, and 20 hits, and I just couldn't believe it. I was like, tactics were pretty much out the window on this. I just outrolled this poor guy. Until this roll, I was just killing things with rolls. I mean, I couldn't miss. My cannons it was just like epic failure on cannons. I wanted them to take out his, and it just never worked. He rolls 20 dice. He gets a bunch of hits. He ended up getting, he hit 5. Out of all 20, he got 5 when he went to roll the wound, and that's what he rolled. I mean, he absolutely flubbed my greater demon. It wasn't even close. It was gone. And Slanesh absolutely and completely saved me from that one. So, great wielding dwarfs murder phase. I didn't do anything. Whiff. Absolute whiff. He kills it, and he says to me, he goes, I'm going to overrun into your demonettes, and I was like, yeah, bring it. Come on in, Cletus. Then we go over to the Nurglings, and I do a wound this time, and he does nothing. So 1 wound to no wounds. I basically murder his face, and he goes nowhere because nobody cares about the Nurglings. They just... I think they're good. Maybe I just suck that bad. I don't know. I got figured out. And since we hadn't fought the combat with the hammers yet, he does make that overrun into my demonettes with his greatsword and crossbowmen. In all honesty, I didn't I swear I didn't care. I mean, he looked at me and he was like, "Oh my God, they're frenzied, aren't they?" And I said, "Yeah." And he ended up clipping them, and I told him not to do it. So in defense of myself, I told him not to do this. That while they are only strength 3, enough attacks put out against anything will just, I mean, I will murder face with it. I mean, there's no other way to say it. You murder face with that many demonettes. So again, for some odd reason, I forgot to take a picture of the combat when he slammed in with the hammers. I can tell you from memory what pretty much happened. I killed, I rolled something like, I think my heralds had 5, 7, let's see, like 12, 13 attacks for them, just with them, not to mention all the attacks from the demonettes and 3 ranks. I did so many wounds, so many hits, and I was rolling my hits. I hit him a ton of times. I ended up doing, I think, 15 wounds to the hammers, 15 or 16, and I did another like 3 or 4 wounds to the crossbowmen when they slammed in. He hit me back. I made most of my saves. I ended up winning combat by just a ton. So basically, his hammers were nothing. He basically ran from everything, except for, I know you see in the picture like a lot more, and I'll get to that. His crossbowmen actually stuck. I thought for sure that would have been game. I would have just overran, and that would have been that. But they stick, and I'm like, okay, that's pretty much, that's fair. So that brings us to my turn. I think this is top of 3, maybe 4, and I charge with everything. You'll notice at the top, I killed his organ gun finally the same turn that I massacred the hammers and everything else, and I make it in with the pleasure cannon, my greater demon, the juggernauts charge in. I hit him with everything I had on those crossbowmen, and he still had a gaggle of them left. And I kill a ton. He still has ranks, and he just starts swinging back. He knows he's going to lose the combat, but he wounds the greater demon once. He wounds my cannon twice, and I'm thinking, oh my God, like, am I really going to lose this combat? And I got starting to tally it up, and it actually was a lot closer than you think. And he ended up losing by like, I want to say by like 5. You know, no big deal. It was a pretty big victory, but he rolled a 10. And we were joking because he had these, like, a set of, and you can see him over there, like, some black dice. Every time he picked up those dice to roll them for, like, attacks, I mean, he rolled, like, snake eyes. It was epic. So he's like, I'm going to use my crap dice, and I'm going to pass this leadership check, watch. And he rolled boxcars. And so we both laughed at each other, and he just was like, you know, I think that pretty much sums that up. And I said, yeah. So I ended up chasing him down and catching him with the juggernauts, and the greater demon overran, and it was a really fun game, really fun guy. We had a really great time, and you'll see what the board looks like at the end. It's just, he had nothing left, but he had 20 thunders, I think, left at the start of my turn, and we just called it at that point. I mean, there was no point. I was just going to attack with everything I had anyway. And near the end, I don't even think we each took our magic phase. Like on that last turn, I think I rolled the dice, and I was just like, you know, we don't have to. I'm just not gonna cast anything because we were already doing. We just were having fun rolling dice with that, rolling the dice for our hand to hand, which was just super amazing. So yeah, it was a win for the Demonic Orchard. My first time out. I mean, you didn't really think I would do a battle report my first one out and lose. That would just absolutely defeat the purpose, wouldn't you say? I mean, it was a lot of fun. We had a great time playing the game. I'll see him again this week. We'll have another game. But you all have a good one, and thanks for watching.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.